Hi guys, my name is Sarga, and my main claim is that the benefits of switching to alternate sources of energy will outweigh the cost of abandoning fossil fuels. My three supporting claims are that fossil fuels have a detrimental effect on the environment, that there will be economic growth if we switch to alternate sources of energy, and that the efficiency of those alternate sources outclass that of fossil fuels. So some background information. We started using fossil fuels we started using it a lot in the Industrial Revolution, and because it was a very convenient and efficient source of energy. So we started implementing it onto inventions like cars and factories, and then however people saw that it had detrimental consequences, so we try to find alternative sources of energies that can replace fossil fuels. Moving on to my first claim, that fossil fuels have a detrimental effect on the environment. Through the Environmental Protection Agency's global greenhouse gas emissions data, it shows that more than 65% of the global gas emissions is carbon dioxide expelled from fossil fuels. And since fossil fuel since carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, it thickens the atmosphere so that more heat is trapped on the earth, raising the overall temperature of the earth. The data also shows that transportation is the largest carbon dioxide emission contributor, and so an alternative that I would suggest is cars that use other sources of energy, such as electric cars. And this is a very practical suggestion because based on Bloomberg New Energy Finance's data from China, North America, Europe, and Japan, there's been an exponential growth of electric car sales from 2015. So in 2015, there was about 5%. 5% of the total cars sold in these countries were electric cars. In 2016, it was 6%. In 2017, it was 33%, and in 2018, it was almost 50%. And also, they stated that more cars were sold in the first half of 2018 than all of 2016. And so that also supports that there has been an exponential growth of electric car sales. Moving on to my second claim, that the shift to renewable energy source would encourage economic growth. So one fact that I'd like to point out is that there would be an increased number of jobs. Unlike mechanized technologies that extract fossil fuels, those that extract renewable energy are more labor focused, meaning that they have to be maintained more regularly. And so we need people to do that, so there will be an increase in jobs. From the Union of Concerned Scientists data, the employment in renewable energy industry, for wind energy, it was over 100,000 people were employed in 2016. In the solar industry, it was over 260,000. In contrast, the coal industry only employed about 160,000 total in 2016. And so that shows that switching would also increase the number of jobs. For my final point, that the efficiency of renewable energy outclass that of fossil fuels. Based on the U.S. Department of Energy, the typical fossil fuel steam plant efficiency is about 35%. However, the range of percent for solar energy is from 28.8% to 43.5%, and for wind power it's 35% to 45%. And so this shows that the efficiency of renewable energy is is superior to that of fossil fuels. And so to sum it all up, based on the fact that fossil fuels create a detrimental effect on the environment, that the shift of renewable energy sources encourages growth in the economy, and that the efficiency of the renewable energy outclass that of fossil fuels, I concluded that the benefits of switching to alternate sources of energies outweigh the cost of abandoning fossil fuels. Thank you.
All right, you start right off with the proposition. There's a little bit of background information that you give us before you get into the argument, but that comes after the proposition and after the preview. You did have a good preview telling us what the supporting structure is going to be, so that's fine. You signpost the points as you get to them, so it's relatively clear. Your information on the first point talks about the amount of CO2 that comes from fossil fuels. I think that that's pretty reasonable. I think you could probably make a little bit more of an argument about why the CO2 in the atmosphere is problematic, since we did have a speech in here that talked about why fossil fuels and human activity has probably got a minimal effect on this. You probably want to make a little bit more of an argument about it instead of taking it as a given. The electric car growth is, you've got some good statistics on it. I don't have any facts on my at my fingertips to point to this. It seems incredulous to me that 50% of the cars that are being sold right now are electric cars, and that's what your evidence made it sound like. And I'm dubious about that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe half of all cars that are being sold today are in fact electric cars. But that would, not only would it surprise me, it would flabbergast me. So that we increased from 5% 4 years ago to 50% today. That seems like a big jump. I'm not sure that the statistic that you're presenting is being presented accurately. I'm not suggesting that you did anything wrong. I'm not sure that your inference about it is the correct one. So I'm going to have to look at that. I'm going to look at your sources and see what's going on there. The second point's labeled pretty clearly. The comparison that you're making is primarily to coal, which is probably not the dominant fossil fuel, and so the argument about the number of jobs in the coal industry being relatively low compared to the wind industry or the solar industry, I think is maybe not the best comparison to make. It's one that favors your position, but it is probably stacked because of the choices that you've made. The third point, basically, you just have this argument about the efficiency and the percentages. The first question I have is what is the impact of efficiency? Why does that matter? How is it important? Does that reduce the cost to consumers? Does that decrease the amount of energy that we have to use in order to supply enough energy to meet our needs? It's just kind of a number at this point without a context, and I don't know that it gets you that much. At the end of the speech, you had a pretty good summary. I think you do a nice job speaking to the audience for the most part. Maybe you could look up at us a little bit more, but generally you sound like you have a good idea about what you're talking about and feel confident in the things that you're saying. All right, thank you.